Beautiful blue water, incredible lush mountains, luxury overwater bungalows, and unreal sea life. What else could you want from a destination? French Polynesia is an absolute dream getaway for an adventure lover. If you're looking for inspiration for your own French Polynesia bucket list trip, then this video is for you. But first things first, there are some things you're going to want to know before visiting the most popular of the 118 beautiful French Polynesian islands. So when you're talking about arriving to French Polynesia, there's a few ways you can do it from the United States. Most people will fly out of either LAX in Los Angeles, SFO in San Francisco, or out of SeaTac in Seattle, and those will have the direct flights into Papeete, Tahiti, which is where you're gonna fly into, clear customs, and then if you're gonna visit some of the other islands, you're going to connect from Tahiti Airport. We took the Air France flight out there, and it's pretty standard, nothing too special, easy peasy. We were in economy. It's around an 8-hour flight, 7.5 hours if you're going faster from LAX, and then you're there. We did a red eye, so we landed around 5:30 a.m. in Tahiti, and then give yourself enough time to go through customs if you are trying to do a connecting flight from there, because it does take a while to go through customs. It was one of the slower customs that we've done into a different country. I think it took about 35 minutes just to get our passport stamped and then grab our luggage. And since we had 2 separate tickets, we had to wait a couple of hours before we could check in for our next flight to Moorea. Just keep that in mind when you're booking your flight. From there, if you're planning an island hopping trip around French Polynesia, there's a few different ways to get around the islands, predominantly either by plane or by boat. There's 2 main providers for airfare in between each island, and that's going to be Air Moana or Air Tahiti. We opted to do the Air Tahiti Inter-Island Pass, and that saved us a lot of money and time from having to book a ton of individual flight tickets. So when you're booking this inter-island flight pass on their website, you can just choose all of the islands that you're going to and plan out your itinerary in advance, and you basically get one little QR code to scan every time you go to the airport, and it's super easy. We highly recommend it. We really enjoyed the process. It was really easy to bounce between the islands using that pass. Sometimes if you're not visiting a ton of islands, it's actually cheaper to do the individual tickets, so do the math in advance before you book your tickets, but we had a great experience using that pass. If you are doing island hopping, once you clear customs in Tahiti and you're flying between the islands, it's actually very easy and seamless. Like at each island, whenever we'd arrive at the airport, you only really need to get there an hour before. There's usually a food spot to grab a bite to eat at each airport, and it's super chill. There's no security at any of them because you've already gone through security in Tahiti. Yeah, it's probably the most chill airport experience we've ever had, going in between a bunch of different places. And also when you're going into Tahiti, make sure to check out the duty-free area and the ATM there. That is one thing that we forgot to do when we first got there. We did go to duty free because alcohol on the islands is very expensive. So when you're flying in, before you leave the international terminal, make sure to check out duty free if you want to indulge in that during your trip to French Polynesia. If not, you can skip it. But that's going to be where the cheapest prices for alcohol are throughout your visit, most likely. If you don't do that, what we've heard a lot of people do is they'll do duty free at LAX or SFO or Seattle and carry it with them along the way. But just keep in mind of your baggage allowance and your weight, because when you are flying in between the islands, there is a different baggage policy. So we actually didn't know that, and we did have to pay for overweight baggage each time. Not much, usually around $10 to $20 because we were a few kilos overweight. But if you are a scuba diver, you will be able to take off 5 kilos off of your overweight scale if that happens to you, if you show your scuba diving ID card. So that's another little hack that we use to save some money. But with the inter-island flights, you're only allowed a small personal item, and you will have to check like even a carry-on suitcase. So keep that in mind. We didn't know that. Hope you guys save some money by knowing that in advance. Another thing to note about the ATM at the airport, we didn't know how cash heavy that French Polynesia was. assuming that most of the resort islands would take credit card, which is very true. Like if you're staying in Bora Bora or only staying on property most places, if you're just doing a relaxing trip, then yes, you can get away with not having a ton of cash. But we highly recommend going to the ATM there. You're gonna need it for taxis, basically everywhere. No taxis take credit card. And you're gonna need it for usually like local food stands or any souvenirs, things like that, or they'll have a minimum that you have to spend on your credit card. It's very hard to find ATMs on some of the smaller islands islands like Moorea and Taha'a and the other islands like Rangiroa that we visited where they only have one ATM or two ATMs on the entire island. That is why we recommend doing it the first thing you do when you land. Some other things to know before you visit French Polynesia is that we highly recommend joining a Facebook group before you go. This is actually where we found a ton of really good hacks and tips and tricks before we left from people that have gone and from a ton of locals. And so I'm in like a Bora Bora Facebook group. I joined the Facebook groups for the hotels we were gonna be staying at, and I learned a lot of really good insider knowledge that way. You can ask questions and things like that if you're confused, or get advice on which flights are the best, which islands are the best for you, and things like that. So highly recommend joining a Facebook group. And no, Facebook is not just for boomers. Let's talk about tipping. Tipping is not customary in the islands of Tahiti and French Polynesia. Some guides did have a little sign saying, you know, like tips are appreciated, but it's not very common throughout the islands to be doing an additional tip. If you're on a resort property, sometimes they have a gratuity included, so just keep that in mind when you're visiting. When is the best time to go to French Polynesia? Now this depends on what you want to do and obviously your schedule, but we would say between July and October. This is when you're gonna have the least amount of rain and the most opportunities to see unique wildlife like the humpback whales, which are there from August to October for the most part. And it's usually just the nicest weather when it comes to the heat. After October, it does start to get pretty hot in November. So just keep that in mind. All year long, it's like a couple degrees difference. It really isn't a super crazy temperature difference. So you're guaranteed a pretty good trip regardless of when you visit. It just will really depend on if you're going in the dry season or the rainy season. What languages do they speak in French Polynesia? So of course it's called French Polynesia, so you're gonna find a lot of French around the islands, and you're also gonna find a lot of Tahitian language being spoken. Most people on the most popular islands will also speak some English, so you won't have to worry too much there. But if you do venture out to some of the other island chains like the Marquesas, for example, you might run into less people speaking English, so just keep that in mind. Maybe download Google Translate for French, then you'll be prepared just in case. But if you're just doing the Society Islands or the Tuamotus, then you're likely gonna be okay with just knowing English. Most of the tours that we went on did offer both English and French guides. Something fun that we learned when we visited too as well is that if you are getting a flower on arrival as a welcome gift from whoever is hosting you, if you are single, you're gonna be putting it behind your right ear, ladies, and if you are taken, then you're gonna be putting it behind your left ear, kind of similar to like the wedding rings. Puts it on your left hand, you can kind of remember it that way. Now that we've gone over everything you need to know before you go, let's get into what you want to pack.
All right, what should you pack when you're going to French Polynesia? Luckily, you aren't gonna have to bring too much stuff, and you'll probably be able to get away with just bringing a carry-on. Number one is bring sunscreen. The sun in French Polynesia is next level. The first day when we went whale watching in Moorea, we put on sunscreen 3 times when we were on the boat, and we still got completely fried on our first day in French Polynesia. So bring sunscreen, apply every 2 hours. If you wanna see the sunscreens that we recommend, go ahead and check the description down below, because you wanna make sure that you bring reef safe sunscreen as well. Number 2 is you're gonna wanna make sure that you bring sunglasses and a sun hat. It does get really bright, especially if you're on the water. I would recommend bringing sunglasses that are gonna keep your eyes safe, but also that you don't care about losing. Just in case you fall into the water or something happens and you lose your sunglasses, you don't wanna be wearing your super expensive pair to where you're gonna be really bummed that you lost it. Same thing with your hat. You wanna make sure that you get a hat that has something that goes around the bottom of your chin, so that way if you're on one of the boats, it doesn't go flying off. And if you are just wearing a regular baseball cap, just take it off, hold it in your hand when the boat is moving, and you can put it on again when you stop. Next thing you're gonna wanna bring is bathing suits. I would recommend bringing 3 different bathing suits, 1 and 2, that way you can switch off and on. One day one's wet, the next one, that way you have a dry bathing suit. And I would also recommend bringing a bathing suit just in case you lose one. We switched islands 4 times, so one of the times we accidentally left a bathing suit at one, that way you're not out and you have to go buy one at the next spot. The nice thing is you can buy all of these in French Polynesia if you lose them or anything happens with them. The next 2 things that you're gonna wanna bring are a reusable water bottle. One thing that the islands are trying to do is really make it so it's sustainable. There's not a lot of plastic in the area, and on all the different islands we went, there are refillable water stations. So if you bring something nice and easy, you can fill it up with water. Same thing if you are mixing your own drink, like we recommended earlier to buy your alcohol at the duty free. You can fill up your reusable a water bottle with some ice, pour your own alcohol in there, just order a pineapple juice or something if it's in the mini bar, fill it up, and you have your cocktail for the day. So that was a little hack that we used. That way we weren't ordering the $25 drinks at the bar at some of these resorts, but we could just have our own little mixed drink with us instead. You are also gonna wanna bring insect repellent. There are mosquitoes everywhere. Poor Giselle got demolished on our first few days in Moorea. What we did notice is on Moorea, the mosquitoes were really bad. Taha'a, the mosquitoes were not as bad. Rangiroa, the mosquitoes were terrible. And on Bora Bora, they were basically non-existent. So it seemed like anytime you went into the forest, anywhere where you can go hiking quite a bit, that is where the mosquitoes are. So if you guys swell up like a balloon or you tend to get bit by a lot of mosquitoes, would highly recommend bringing your own bug repellent or buying some as soon as you get to French Polynesia. Last thing we'd recommend really remembering to pack is a waterproof camera. We recommend the GoPro because it can capture great videos and pictures, as well as it is waterproof down to 30 feet, which makes it really nice if you're just gonna be going snorkeling, maybe a little free diving, maybe you go on an ATV tour, or you accidentally drop your camera, you don't wanna break it. A GoPro is really durable. We went ahead and linked the GoPro that we are using currently down below. And if you're into scuba diving, we went ahead and linked the GoPro dive case that we use as well. Now, which islands should you visit when you're visiting French Polynesia? We visited 5 of the islands. The first one that we stopped at and where you're gonna have to fly into is Tahiti. When you fly into Tahiti, you can stay there a few days. We would recommend only spending maybe 1 to 2 days if you guys are planning on staying on the island. We stayed at the Intercontinental on Tahiti. It was okay. It was probably our least favorite resort that we stayed at out of all the islands that we visited because it was so busy. That is one thing you will notice right away when you get into Tahiti that you don't experience on the other islands, is it is very, very busy. In Tahiti, it's basically like your regular big city. It reminded us of Los Angeles, very big, crowded, not a lot of things to do in the city, but as soon as you get out of the city, there is a ton of things to do. The inner part of the island, if you do one of the tours, is beautiful. You can go snorkeling. Tahiti is actually where the 2024 surfing part of the Olympics is happening. Since the Olympics are happening in Paris, France, they're doing the surfing part in French Polynesia, which is pretty cool. Tahiti is where we flew into and is also where we left, but our first island that we went to was Moorea.
Moorea is the closest island to Tahiti, and so it made sense that it was our first island to stop right after visiting there. It's only a 30-minute ferry ride away if you're gonna take a boat, or if you're gonna fly, it was a 7-minute flight. So really easy to get there for your first stop on your French Polynesia trip if you're going to go to Moorea, and it's absolutely stunning. I would say it's like Bora Bora, but more on a budget. Super beautiful water and lagoons, overwater bungalows, lots of adventure. I would really say this is the fun adventure island in French Polynesia if you're looking for a ton of different activities to get out and do. We stayed at the Sofitel Kia'ora Resort on the island in a luxury overwater bungalow, and it was absolutely beautiful. We loved our stay there. We just checked in. We're staying in overwater bungalow number 115, and let's show you guys inside. It is one of the most stunning properties we've ever been to. So we have a nice little sitting area over here. Look down and see, the lagoon, our outdoor area. Sunrise room right here because the sunrise is right over there. Massive bed. Everything here is just big. And then we have our mini bar area, which is pretty big, honestly. Full like coffee, Nespresso, and then a nice mini bar that they will restock every day. Next up, we have the bathroom. Automatic brownie points for robes and slippers, and his and her sinks, and a massive, beautiful shower. The other popular honeymoon property is the Hilton on the island, but there's also lots of affordable options like Airbnbs and local guest houses and pensions on the island if you are looking to go on more of a budget. Like Steven had mentioned, this was our honeymoon style bucket list trip, a once in a lifetime trip for us, so we did go and opt for more of the luxury on this trip. However, definitely can do it more on a budget. We plan to actually go back to Moorea and in the future because we loved it so much and do it more on a budget. So just keep that in mind and know that there's a ton of different options depending on what you are looking to spend. How to get around on Moorea. So we rented a car at the last minute from this little app called Hello Car, also Hello Scooter. They have some scooters available, and we just happened to get so lucky that there was one right at the Moorea airport. If you do not pre-schedule your transportation from the airport, you are gonna be out of luck because this island is small. And if you don't book your rental cars like 6 months out, you're not gonna be able to get one. Most people don't really need one. Most of the tours will pick up and drop off at your hotel. We weren't able to get a rental car, so this was nice because we could use the app to just rent a car for a few hours. And if you don't have a rental car, we definitely would recommend going to the grocery store and using the ATM if you didn't on Tahiti. But if you watch this video, you should know that to do it on Tahiti. It was nice to have for errands, but otherwise it's not like super necessary unless you are staying there for a full week or something and want total flexibility on the island.
One thing to note about the rental car, it was super convenient that we could get the Hello Car, but it is manual. So
Stick shift.
if you guys are not from America, or I mean if you are from America and you're used to automatics, just make sure you practice or book a rental car further in advance.
The top things to do when you're visiting Moorea, in our opinion, would be ATVing or doing some sort of jet ski tour around the island. The ATVs were so much fun. We booked that spontaneously like a week in advance, and they happen to have some availability. It takes you up to Magic Mountain, it takes you over to the Belvedere Lookout, and you get yourself acquainted with the island. We also got to go and try some local coconut and vanilla ice cream, which was delicious, and really just got to take in all the sights. It is a stunning island, and you can also hike up to some of these spots, but we liked the ATV tour because it was fun and saved a lot of energy. So we'll link all of these activities down in the description box for you if you guys want to book them yourself as well. But keep in mind that you're going to want to be booking these pretty far out because they do book out pretty far in advance. We had to book most of our activities in May when we were booking for October, and that's some of the earliest booking that we've done for a trip. Usually I'm only 2 to 3 months out, but this one you're gonna really wanna plan in advance. Next up, you're gonna want to go swimming with the humpback whales if you are visiting in season. That is from August to October primarily, sometimes goes into November, but there's also many different water opportunities, whether you're going out on a sailboat, you're going out on a catamaran, you're going whale watching, you're going scuba diving. There's so much more. If you want to check out everything that we did on Moorea, check out our full Moorea YouTube guide. We'll link it right up here for you as well as in the description box below so you can get more details on everything we did during our stay on that island. And with that, let's jump into our next island, which was Taha'a. Is a very different experience than Moorea or Bora Bora or Rangiroa, which are the other islands that we visited on this trip. It is much more private and much more quiet and cultural than the other islands in our experience. So in order to get to Taha'a, there's actually no direct flights there, so you have to fly into its neighboring sister island of Raiatea, and then we took a 30-minute boat ride from Raiatea over to Taha'a, which we arranged through our hotel. We stayed at La Taha'a by Pearl Resorts, and it was a beautiful property. Instead of doing an overwater bungalow like we did in Moorea, we opted for a private beach villa here, mainly because they were all out of bungalows, but we're actually very happy that we went with the pool villa route. Just take a look at this room.
We just checked in at La Taha'a Pearl Resorts, and we have rented an absolutely insane private villa overlooking the beach over here. I'm gonna show you around. Come on inside. When we first checked in, our jaws were on the floor when the lady came in and showed us around. We are gonna enter the suite up here to my left. We have a little living room area. We have a little office. They give you complimentary little refillable water bottles, and then they also give you a little beach bag, which is so nice. Then out here, we have our beautiful little plunge pool and a little sitting area over here as well as over there. We've got the main room over here. We have a TV. We have a stunning view of the beach and the other overwater bungalows. And of course we have our bathroom. So we have a shower over here. We got our robes and our slippers, and we are super excited. The room is so cute and decorated. They have these flowers all over the bed and the couch over there, and we're so excited to stay here.
How to get around on the island? If you're staying at the same resort as us, because there's not many hotel options available on Taha'a itself, you can get around via bikes or e-bikes. They do have car rentals available, but they're very far and few between, and I don't think you really need one, especially if you are doing a tour.
So there's a few different tours that we did while we're out here. You really don't need like a ton of time to get the full experience of the island. I'd recommend 3 to 5 days if you want to really experience everything, because Taha'a is actually pretty small in comparison to some of the other islands. We did a 4x4 safari tour that took us to a ton of the main spots on the island. We literally drove all the way around, so that only took about a half day. You can also do a full day experience if you want to get in the water, but we got to go check out the pearl farm, where we got this beautiful ring farmed from a Tahitian pearl.
She got a little present.
I don't normally do that.
I know, I was like, look at this thing.
It's so pretty.
That is beautiful. Apparently, the color changes in the place you go between here, Japan, and where was the last place?
Philippine pearls are yellow, and in Japan they're white. And here they're shades of like dark pearls. They say it's like a black pearl, but it never actually produces black. It's just a ton of like, I think over 160 different shades. So very cool. Happy I got one. And they only distribute in Japan. So if you are going to buy one, highly recommend buying it here if you are going to visit the pearl farm.
Really cool.
We also got to go to a distillery where they make a ton of vanilla products as well as rum. And then we got to go visit the vanilla plantation, see exactly how Tahitian vanilla is grown. Super cool and cultural experience on the island. Our guide was really awesome. He also taught us a lot about the local plants on the island, the wildlife, and everything like that, as well as a lot about the Tahitian culture. So if you are looking for a more cultural island to visit, we definitely recommend Taha'a. And then of course we did a sunset cruise yesterday, because this island is really known for its sunsets. Whereas Moorea, we were kind of more on the sunrise side. It's definitely been mind-blowing to see some beautiful pink sunsets here on the island. And we had a really awesome group. They brought us a rum punch, they played some ukulele for us, and taught us more about the culture and whatnot. And then we had a beautiful sunset. If you guys don't have your own snorkeling equipment, we'd also recommend doing some sort of snorkeling excursion. There's the beautiful coral gardens over on the other side of the island away from the resort. Definitely recommend checking those out. A lot of people from Bora Bora will even do a day tour out here to do some snorkeling over there. Lots of fish, lots of areas to snorkel, and you can just relax. I feel like that's the nicest thing. That's why we've really enjoyed staying in this villa instead of the overwater bungalows, because we get this full hammock, we have some sunbeds, we have our own private pool, so we can just go all over from the beach to the pool to the hammock, and it feels just like a relaxing vacation. So if that's what you're looking for in an island in Tahiti and French Polynesia, we definitely recommend this for a more peaceful, relaxing vibe.
And since it was so close, it only made sense that our next island was gonna be Bora Bora.
Next is the well-known island of Bora Bora. This island is for you if you love luxury, if you're really looking to get away and have a magical honeymoon-like experience, and if you're looking to try and be set apart without the crowds. Bora Bora is going to be for you if you also are willing to dish out a little bit more money. Moorea, Taha'a, and Rangiroa were all much cheaper than Bora Bora when it comes to the stay or where you're gonna stay, but there are options both if you're on a budget and if you're looking for the best resorts on the island. Where do we stay on Bora Bora? We stayed at the Four Seasons Resort and at the St. Regis, which are probably the two top properties on Bora Bora when we visited. We actually did post a full video comparing the two properties and which one we would recommend for you if you were going to Bora Bora, so you can check out that video down below in the description. How do you get around on Bora Bora? The crazy thing about Bora Bora is it's all broken up into little motus. The St. Regis and the Four Seasons were on one motu, the Conrad and the other crazy intercontinental resorts were on different motus. So if you want to go on any excursions, if you want to go to any of the restaurants on the main island of Bora Bora, then you're gonna have to take a boat. Even the airport itself is on a motu, so in order to get from the airport to any of the hotels or anywhere where you can go on the island, you actually have to take a boat. What are the top 3 things to do in Bora Bora? Well, if we were there for 4 days or even 2 days, just like we were, we would recommend you do a jet ski tour. That was probably the most fun thing that we did. We went on a jet ski tour around the entire island, and they have different packages, so that was the second half of our day.
This water is literally insane.
It doesn't make sense.
It's like the most turquoise to blue water I've ever seen, and we've seen a lot lot of blue water in the world, but like
Just blows it out of the proportion.
insane.
Look who's driving now. And the first half of the day was we spent going on a lagoon snorkel tour. That is the second thing we would recommend going. This thing is awesome because you get to see the black-tip sharks. You get surrounded by all of these different types of rays. You go and see thousands upon thousands of different fish in the area. The sea life in Bora Bora was incredible. So we would definitely recommend going and doing a lagoon tour. And if you guys aren't looking to leave your resort for the jet ski or the lagoon tour, you need to go snorkeling. A lot of the resorts inside of the area have these beautiful lagoons where they keep the fish almost like an aquarium, but it's like a wild aquarium. So when we were staying at the St. Regis, there was this one area called the lagoon where you can go snorkeling on the property and see thousands of fish there. If you guys are not staying at one of the main locations on Bora Bora for the resorts and you're just staying at one of the Airbnbs, there are tons of areas on the main island of Bora Bora where you can go snorkeling as well. You can go ahead and Google just best spots to visit in Bora Bora and you should be able to hop in the water and go snorkeling from there. If you guys are not looking to stay in one of the main hotels, some people do say that Bora Bora is Bora boring because there's not a ton of things to do on the island. There's not a whole bunch to do besides stay in the Airbnb and go on the little circle, but they do like to say that Bora Bora just grows hotels. Whereas if you stay on Taha'a, there's a lot more of a cultural experience. If you stay on Moorea, there's a lot more of a local experience. And if you stay on Bora Bora, you're mainly gonna find tourists there where you're not gonna find a lot of the locals. With that being said, let's jump into the last island that we visited on our French Polynesia trip. This island is for you if you are looking to go scuba diving. I wouldn't really recommend Rangiroa or Whakarava, which are both pretty close, and these two are in a different set of islands than the rest of them. And in order to get to Rangiroa, we actually had to take an hour flight to get all the way up to the new set of islands where there's a lot more hidden gems, a lot more off the beaten path, and you're not gonna see as many tourists up there. So on Rangiroa, we stayed in a little Airbnb. Welcome to our Airbnb here in Rangiroa. It's a little bit different than the rest of the islands that we've been staying on. On all the other ones, we were staying on luxury 5-star resorts because once again, it's our honeymoon. But here, since there's only really one luxury resort on the island that you can stay at, it was completely booked when we got here. And that's one thing that we've learned already starting here in Rangiroa. You wanna book everything far in advance. But let's jump into the Airbnb. Come on in. So most of the Airbnbs here in Rangiroa are gonna be just like this. It has one bed, maybe a little bit of a couch, it has air conditioning, a kitchen, and it has everything that we need here, which is perfect. The Wi-Fi in Rangiroa is very hit and miss. We saw some days it worked great, some days it worked terrible. So we'll put the link down here in the description if you guys want to book this same Airbnb. It worked out great. It was a 30-minute bike ride all the way to Tiputa Pass. It was only about a 5 to 10-minute bike ride away from most of the grocery stores, and it was about a 30-minute bike ride all the way to the end of the other island in the main city here on this little motu. Rangiroa is a huge area. The lagoon is all considered Rangiroa, and then everything around it is little motus, which make it one of the largest atolls in French Polynesia, which has been incredible. But if you can book one of the nicer hotels and you want more amenities like having the pool, having nice drinks and cocktails, having a dinner place, we didn't really have any dinner places local to us besides a little pizza shop that was outside a local's neighborhood. So make sure you do your research beforehand, but ended up working out perfect. Most of the places on Rangiroa are pensions, which are basically just bed and breakfast, pretty similar to Airbnbs, and you can actually typically book a half board. So that means that you're gonna get breakfast and you're gonna get dinner. We highly recommend finding a place with really good air conditioning and really good Wi-Fi, just to help make it a little bit easier on you, because it can be pretty rough out here. I'm not gonna lie. Being on this island, I don't know if I would stay here for more than 4 days. It's a little bit more on the rough side of the island. You have to bike everywhere. There's like one taxi on the island. Pretty out there. The only way they get water is from the rain here, and they filter it through that. They have no other ways to get water. Even our host was like, when you use the water, make sure you use it sparingly. So completely different experience being out here on Rangiroa compared to all the other islands that we visited in French Polynesia.
We rode all the way down to a market. There's a ton of different little supermarkets on the island. We could have found one that was a little closer, but honestly, it's kind of hard to tell what's a market. We just went to the Rangiroa market, which is on the other side of the island. We're kind of in the middle here at the Rangiroa Reef Lodge, but there's like the airport side, and then we went to the opposite side of the airport side. So we went as far down as you can go, essentially. We got some groceries just for some lunch today and some snacks, and it cost about like $50 US just for like some PB&J supplies, some chips, and some sparkling waters. So it is a little pricey. We are on a tiny little island, so that does make sense. So the Rangiroa market did take credit cards. There's only one ATM on the whole island, and that is over by the airport. If you guys need it, I would recommend doing it right when you land, but it seems like most of the supermarkets will take credit card. Not all of them, but most of them, and we'll see what the restaurants are like.
This is Tiputa Pass. This is the most famous part of Rangiroa for the dolphins. This is one of the only places in the entire world where you can go down and scuba dive, and the dolphins will come up to you, they want to play with you, hang out, say hello. It's supposed to be in the top 5 for one of the best scuba diving places in the entire world, which is crazy because if you look out here, there's tons and tons of waves. The waves here can get up to 15 feet high is what we heard a few days ago. Luckily, the weather doesn't look like it's going to be too bad here. If you are going to be doing scuba diving here in Rangiroa, we highly recommend planning in advance though. We'll go ahead and link our favorite dive shops down below. We did all of our scuba diving with Top Dive, but 6 Passenger is the National Geographic one that's a little bit more well known. You can go and book with whoever you want. We would definitely recommend doing at least 4 dives minimum. Our first dive here in Rangiroa, we did not see any dolphins. Our second dive, we actually ended up losing our GoPro at the bottom of the ocean. Third dive, Giselle found a GoPro down at the bottom of the ocean. And then on our last dive, we did see a ton of dolphins. So the whole experience was magical. That's the main thing to do here in Rangiroa. If you are not scuba dive certified, there are a couple other things that you can do, like the Blue Lagoon, but it does take a full day from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. to get out there and come back since the atoll is so big on Rangiroa. Another thing that you can do is the Pink Sand Beach, which is also a full day excursion. I would highly suggest adding it to your bucket list if you're doing scuba diving. If not, I might hold off and pick one of the other islands to do in French Polynesia since there's so many to choose from.
If you guys missed any of our other French Polynesia content, make sure to go and check out the previous 2 videos. We'll go ahead and put them down in the description. And if you want to see more of our daily stories from our content, make sure to go and check out our Instagram and our TikTok, where we're going to be posting all of our French Polynesia content, and you can check out our story highlight on there.
And that is it for our honeymoon experience here in French Polynesia. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know down in the comments which island was your favorite, Moorea, Taha'a, Rangiroa, or Bora Bora. We didn't spend too much time on Tahiti, but that is the main airport where you're gonna fly into to get to all the other French Polynesian islands. If you guys want more information, go ahead and check out the description down below. We're gonna put more blog assets there. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next adventure.